Welcome to Momentum Monday. Today, July 19, 2020. And Howard needs a haircut, right?
Yeah. I can't believe how little hair I have. I actually need a haircut, but it's growing in fits and starts here, Ivan. It's not like a uniformed conglomerate of hairness that you have.
Or it all comes with age. I'm pretty sure I'll get to your level too at some point.
I think you've had the same amount of hair. You'll have when you're 80, you'll have the same amount of hair. Swing traders have better hair. That should be a t-shirt.
Maybe, yeah.
How was the week? Good?
Yeah, good week. Quite a few moves and rotations in the market.
Let's get to it. Tell people what they should know.
Let's get to it. Oh, do you need to pee? Where are you?
No, I have a standing setup, so it's more comfortable for me.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, last week we saw some major rotations. A slight pullback in tech, which has been the undisputed leader, not only for the past 3-4 months, but just for the past 10 years in general. So after the big moves that we saw especially in the mega caps, I think it's kind of normal to see a slight pullback. But the indices, like the S&P 500, they didn't really move too much. They just consolidated through time because money never left the market. It just rotated into other sectors. And for example, last week we saw significant upside moves in transportation, in home builders, in solar. Biden is talking about.
I missed that. I've been in that so many different times, and I keep missing the real move.
Yeah, Biden is talking about a $2 trillion infrastructure and clean energy bill, and all the solar, fuel cell, alternative energy stocks, and home builders.
That's interesting. Is the old, like Exxon, is that going down? I wonder if that's foreshadowing a win by the Democrats.
Yeah, it's doing a downtrend. I don't know.
No, but I mean, like maybe there's the polls are playing out in the solar.
Yeah, they could be, because as I said, the solar sector is just done amazing. I mean, there's some of the solar stock
up 100%. The index is up 100%.
Yes, yeah. It's
holy smokes,
incredible. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So definitely something to pay attention to. There's the momentum money is kind of hiding and going into solar, and there are quite a few new names in that sector just to pay attention to. I mean, look at the big high volume gap and breakout, and then immediate follow through. This is not.
No, those are real earnings. I mean, I guess if you're.
No, it's not based on earnings. It's just based on expectations of a new clean energy and infrastructure bill.
Can you go look at the monthlies there? What is this one? Installation of, I mean, all the fake moves over here, that is a real move. Oh my goodness. So the last shakeout was March. There's going to be a new president. There's just no doubt.
Okay, even all those.
This move doesn't happen on, well, First Solar's just always kind of been that dog.
But even they're starting to move and trend higher. Look at the volume here. So breaking out on high volume, pulling back on or consolidating.
Yeah, but it's the laggard of the group. Like Solar Edge, SEDG, and Run are the ones.
Yeah. I mean, definitely these are the old First Solar, SunPower. These are the old blocks.
SEDG, that's the one. SEDG and Run seem to be the one, or the index. It's too hard for me to pick. You can go to TAN and COIFIN and kind of look at the ones.
All of them are going to go up.
Yeah. So I don't know the sector. What a bummer. But it just, I mean, that's the closest thing I've seen to a Biden win. That is anti-Trump. That's an anti-Trump portfolio right there, solar. Although he has orange skin, so he likes sun. He just
And
doesn't want to help anybody in that industry. That's super interesting. Okay, keep going.
so the other big theme that we noticed last week, so Moderna came out with
Yeah.
positive results on their trial, even though it was only 46, 48 people, but
48.
definitely some fascinating new technology that I educated myself a little bit on. They're not using the dead virus to create a vaccine. They're just injecting something in the people that is just programming the body to start creating antibodies on its own. So it's a fairly new technology that is
a therapy idea. This is what it's all about: therapy or prevention.
Yeah, it's unproven yet, but the market is liking what it's seeing. It's not only Moderna.
What's the market cap of that? Already fucking 40 billion, no revenue.
Yeah,
I guess they're forecasting obviously huge numbers.
For such a small company, definitely it's maybe a little bit frothy. But if they're the ones that come up with
but look at that. Look at some of the moves, like stocks that I would never. NVAX. I mean.
Yeah, I was going to get to it too, but yeah.
On just a technical, I mean, the logarithmic of that, they've had to add that. Like, I mean, that thing was a $2 stock. I've never seen anything like that.
Exactly. I mean, there's so many stocks in that. The other one.
INO.
Exactly. There's so many. Look at this one, for example.
Yeah. You've been on some of these, haven't you?
Yeah. I've been, and everyone, I guess, because they've been the momentum.
I've traded a few just myself, just because I'm too embarrassed if I'm wrong, but I've traded a few.
So going back to that thesis that, obviously kind of the market.
I saw you shared this idea, but they have earnings Monday. I didn't play it, but I saw you shared it.
They report, they're expected to report the results from their Oxford vaccine trial on Monday. And since they have
give me the monthly on that one. I mean, that's a real company, AstraZeneca. So yeah. I mean, if they pull this off, $2 in earnings, yeah, that's double.
They have 14,000 people in their study, and there's been already some information leaking that they have positive results. So the market is starting to react already. So I thought that with all those positive results, we're going to see a more sustainable rally in
the old economy.
Yes, in the old economy, but so far we're not seeing that. They would pop for a day and they would not see a follow through. But just watch for it next week. Maybe if on Monday.
I think the way to play it is, trucking index hit on high. I forget the ticker symbol, but I think trannies and
absolutely
retail. I think also retail, it would show up quickest. I don't want to play the casinos because people they're not going to get the same. Well, they'll get more leverage play, but if you look at retail and then you look at the trucking. And, if you want leverage, you go to the airlines, I guess, on the recovery. But if you want just straight recovery, you go to the retail and you go to the restaurants, which have already been doing well. And you don't get too fancy. I'm sticking with tech, but I get why people will, the rotation will help tech. I think, keep going, Ivan. What else do you see? I'm long Abbott, ABT, in that space, and IBB and XBI. So let's just check in on those ABT. I mean, technically, I think JC got me in this idea. So that looks interesting.
Yeah, it is setting up for a breakout.
And then XBI and IBB, I'm long those.
Yeah, the buy continues to just make.
Yeah, one's equal weighted and one is market cap weighted. So I've just kind of split between the two. And then you can see healthcare, right? If you want to play a recovery to XLV, which is the broader healthcare index.
Also, the medical devices have been on fire lately.
Yeah, that's one that I've been talking about forever. This is an 8 to 80 position of mine. You just long-term, from kids are being birthed to death. This is an index. I think the medical instrument index is the index that the companies with earnings, the companies that, while you may not recognize any of the brands, IHI, and the reason for the breakout is ISurge, ISRG, which I'm long.
Yeah.
The signal was Friday. I did it intraday. How are you not, now earnings are this week, so it could just like Netflix, pull at Netflix, but take a look at a monthly on, this is the biggest brand other than Medtronics. This is the biggest brand in robotic surgery. You can see that yeah, Medtronic's lagged the last few years, but you can see this breakout in iSurge, and just that's why IHI broke out. And then the other one is Illumina, which is a San Diego company, ILMN, which if I didn't have so many positions, I mean, that's going to go. I mean, that could be a $600 stock in a bull move. You know, in March, I forget why, I guess just it really panicked in March. I mean, you can just see that it's just fascinating. We went from a crash to a boom, and it can't just be purely Fed driven. I mean, at some level, yes, but these are real companies. I mean, the market caps are it's hard for me to understand them, but if we go to the daily on Illumina, I mean, that's going higher. You know, barring the market turning.
I mean, obviously the Fed is the big catalyst, but also you have
for the liquidity and for the increased valuations.
Just for the
technically
confidence in general. When you have the confidence that the Fed is gonna support you on corrections and on pullbacks.
Well, it's a combination. I think it's a combination now, Ivan. We're seeing it for now. Combination of the Fed and Trump losing. Like if you look at whose bill is getting, I just didn't see it until you mentioned it. You can see it's a combination of the Fed and a new government being predicted.
And also a lot of new traders. We have millions of new accounts.
Yeah, but
joining.
So a lot of the studies are saying it's such a small percentage still. A lot of new accounts, but small accounts.
So they're the big trends that we mentioned, the constant sector rotations, the clean energy rally, but there are also some smaller trends that I'm noticing. For example, some of the Indian technology companies are starting to break out to new all-time highs. And a big reason for that is that a lot of European and US companies are outsourcing. They are right now heavily just to cut costs. And if you talk to any of the big companies, I mean, they all of them are making those moves. And this is why you see something like an old dog like Infosys breaking out to
oh my goodness, that is an old large company. Wow. Yeah. So that's no different than like an Agilent breaking out in the USA. Go look at Agilent. So if you want the
what is the symbol?
A.
I'll just say okay.
I mean, kind of the same thing, but US version. Just
so I think it's a smaller trend, but it's something to keep an eye on, because I definitely see that across the board in so many companies just outsourcing.
And that could be the weak dollar too driving. So
okay, absolutely, the dollar breaking down, and that's why we're seeing also the moves in gold, because all of a sudden the 2%.
Sorry, we're seeing the move in what? Gold?
Gold and gold miners. You know, on Friday, look.
I mean, there is something for, okay. So I went from, it's really interesting because I'm wrong, but not totally wrong. I went from frothy and defensive to constructive in 1 week, meaning if we look at the froth area, Nikola, Tesla, NKL, they did a Friday night dump. Like there's serious froth, but it's just kind of correcting on its own. Like the stupidity, the Hertz, the Nikola, Tesla, the SPACs, they're kind of just living in their own world and not carrying over. And that's where I think the new traders are. There's like two markets. There's like the froth is contained to the newbies, and there's not enough real money for them to pull out of the Apples and like if they get their ass kicked, they're still holding on to their Teslas and their Apples. And it's just, that's, I think, the confusing part, where the froth is kind of contained. That price action in Tesla was pretty frothy, but then I was talking to some big funds that do emerging market investing, and for example, I've been in Mexico, like a Robinhood of Mexico / Stash, and the two tickers that they were buying all these newbie traders in Mexico were Tesla and Amazon. So there's just this global demand for the assets on the NASDAQ 100, which is why I'm like the QQQ over the SPY. No one's clamoring in Mexico to day trade Carnival Cruise Line and jets. Their first buys are the they want to own a piece of the good companies, whether they're overvalued or undervalued, I don't know. So there's this like underlying bid globally for these, American cultural icons. And so it's pretty interesting. Like it's really hard to fight this trend if you're a bear, which I'm not. So, but really we went from Froth, and now I'm like, last week I put on, a bunch of small positions again, because technically the market looks good. Is that what you kind of see too?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, we saw a slight pullback in tech, but at the same time, the small cap index and the S&P 500, they're just
Very constructive.
setting up for a breakout.
Yeah. So I think Trump's going to get his wish. The market will go higher. I don't think it helps the economy. I think a vaccine, I'm still skeptical if everybody's like, everybody's, it's 6 months to a year. And it's like, there's some studies coming out that, and again, I don't read that much, but there's studies coming out saying there's not enough antibodies to even prove that you can't get it twice. So, I mean, I think these novel therapy type stocks are running on that as well. We're going to be living with these kind of strains like a regular type of flu, a harsher flu, for a long time.
Yeah,
and in that world, the malls, if we look at SPG, the malls are not bottoming, and the airlines aren't really bottoming. And so certain industries will be different. But the pivot to e-commerce and like the Domino's of the world and food delivery is on. So I think what you're seeing is just the jobs, the shitty jobs, the underemployed jobs just aren't coming back anytime soon, and people are going to have to retrain themselves or go work for Amazon. Google is saying they're going to have courses and training people in code.
Yeah.
Like these are going to be the new universities, these 5 companies.
Yeah.
And then I have to say, this argument that these 5 stocks make up too much of the S&P is like, no, I would argue that these 5 stocks are the S&P, and everything you do that buy beyond those 5 or 6 stocks is kind of diluting yourself. In a way, it's kind of a weird moment where the 5 companies are better diversification than the other 495 companies, because they're so in danger of not being in business. It's really weird.
Yeah, we might be getting to a point where there will be a universal income for everyone.
Well, the universal income, if you work for an Amazon, or Amazon pays you, I don't think it'll be straight, because you can't have Social Security and universal basic. I mean, it's just, you got to have, I hope that doesn't, you can't have it all. But I think if you're going to work for one of the big 5 or be a tester or a consumer to product tester for Amazon, or you're going to do something for Google in terms of being, A/B testing and learning kind of support jobs, then they will pay you. And it may not be, and it may be better than minimum wage, and you may not have to stand in a store and wait on people with a mask. So I think the market's kind of taking all that in, combined with all this loose money, combined with pricing in an election that may or may not happen. It's hard to be bearish. Taking all that in, there's a lot to digest. So I'll end with saying I'm very constructively bullish, because the froth seems to be contained. Take a look at this CTSO. It's another one of these small, so many of these in the medical instrument space. I'm just seeing so many names pop up. Give me a monthly on that, Ivan. It's not making money, but it's an IPO back in 2015, man. That just looks interesting. It's under $1 billion. What do they do?
I don't know.
Yeah, see, what does it say? Devices, blood purification. I mean, that sounds cool. So I'm saying, like, everybody, this medical instrument space is real.
Definitely a big breakout in the entire index. So there's quite a few strong trends. It's not just software.
No, that's why I'm saying, like, it's not fun for me to have to learn some new things, solar and healthcare and biotech and the drug companies, but this isn't like buying banks. Like everybody says you need the banks. I think we need healthcare here. And not just United Healthcare, at least it's like not just United Healthcare going up. which is just kind of a fucking disgusting monopoly. Okay. Any other swing ideas to add, Ivan, or you're good?
So that's all. I think we covered a lot.
Yep. Okay, everybody. So Ivan's constructive. I'm turning bullish, meaning I'm always going to stay low. As people that follow me here is like, I'm never going to be 100% long, but I'm kind of leaning towards getting above 50% long because this is spreading to medical, and you're never going to get me buying banks or tranny stocks. And you're probably not going to get me to speculate in solar and energy, but I will definitely have started to with iSurge and Abbott and IHI. I've started to move money into more than just software. And the market seems to be digesting the tech pullbacks, even Netflix, right? It's big deal, 40-point move.
I think it's totally normal to see a pullback to their 50-day near 450. So it's still an uptrend. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the S's are where my money is: Snap, Spotify, and Shopify.
Yeah, Snap reports earnings this week. So
I don't think it matters what they report. I think if it goes down, it's a buy. If it goes up, it's a hold. Spotify, they signed Michelle Obama, but I think, as I've been talking about with Spotify, they launched a beautiful podcast chart section. So they're about to make overnight successes out of hundreds of podcasters globally. And then Shopify just won't give up gains. It's just pulling back constructively after a tripling since the bottom. And Shopify is just continues to just digest humongous runs. And on light volume, look at these pullbacks. It's not anything to get. It's in no man's land in terms of buying for me, but holding what I got left. It seems like we're just not. And even Tesla, but full pullback 10%, big deal. Off a run of 500%. I mean, that's pretty constructive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Have a good week, dude.
All right, you too, Kurt.